right, it's time for another episode of the PEBAheads. We got Scott and Sean here, and we've got a packed episode today with playoffs right around the corner. Regular
Season
season,
wrap up.
yeah, go over the season wrap up, look at some stats, league leaders at different areas, and give our thoughts on the playoff teams and teams that made it and the teams that missed. So, how you been, Scott?
Good, good. We talked about doing this last weekend, but I think I decided we would wait one more week for the season to end, have more to talk about.
Well, it was a exciting last two sims this past week with a lot of close playoff races. So rather than talk hypotheticals, we can talk about what we're actually gonna roll out here. So
I didn't
it'll
notice
be
any big surprises towards the end of the season, but I do, I do think that there were some surprises. Not to beat a dead horse here, but if you looked at, so I was looking at the playoff team. So last season there were five teams that made the playoffs that did not make the playoffs this season. You got Fargo and Reno, and then the Scottish, New Orleans, and San Juan all made the playoffs last year and all are missing the playoffs this year. And then the five new teams that didn't make it last year and are going to be in the playoffs this year are the Ghosts, Tempe, London, Charleston, and New Jersey. I would say that London was a surprise to me. Like I did not pick them to win the division. I have never done the predictions thread, but you know, I'm not too surprised about too many of these. Like if you look at like not making the playoffs is one thing. I mean, I'm pretty surprised that you didn't. But like my team, I figured it was a jumbled mess in the desert hills with London, or I'm sorry, London, with Aurora, Tempe, Palm Springs, and Reno. And at the beginning of the season, I figured any one of us could win the division. So having it shake out with Tempe being in first, with Aurora getting the wild card with 3 games back, and then Palm Springs is in third place with 6 games back. It's not super surprising, right? I'm
right.
just surprised at how bad my team was. I would have expected to be more like Palm Springs and either or Aurora, either just getting in or just missing. Um, and then in your division, I was pretty surprised that London, not only won the division but won it by 8 games over you. Now you did have a big like you were pretty far down in the standings, right? What was your worst slot? I mean, you were pretty low at
I think
first. So
we
you
were in
de-
last at one point.
okay, so you definitely had an up and down season, and you turned it on at the end of the season. What was your month of September like? Do you remember? Because I had a horrendous month of September.
I know the
I
last
think
2 months were finally like more of more similar to what I expected. Yeah, 15 and 11, 16 and 12. So not lighting the world on fire, but
right.
better than 9 and 17 in April. But
And like when we talk about like the ghosts, that they missed it last year, but you know, there was a lot of discussion. I think they were a better team than what they did last year. So it was no big surprise that they made it. Um, I mean, you could say New Jersey, like we talked about them. I expected, like I knew they'd be good. I knew they'd be a lot better because of they were rebuilding for what 2 seasons, and this year it looked like he was going to try to win, and I expected him to win. I just didn't. I would have thought that it would have taken a little more time for the youngsters to gel and mature and perform, but he came out of the gate hot, and then added D'Antonio. Getting an ace pitch. He acquired an ace pitcher in June, and it was off to the races. So it's not like they're huge surprises. They're like Charleston's another one. I thought they were better last year than their record showed, so that wasn't a huge surprise either. But there's some surprises like San Juan, New Orleans. They I could have easily seen those teams making the playoffs again. They just didn't.
Yeah, I think New Orleans is definitely one of the bigger surprises, at least for me, when I look at how the team is constructed and then what the output ended up being. And I think it sucks for Chuck because that team made a huge leap as a franchise last year by finally getting into the playoffs. And then to
He
have it,
acquired, didn't he acquire a hitter too? I thought.
I think he added, well, he added Stark. That was a couple of seasons ago. I thought he added a one in free agency, maybe. Let's see.
I thought he did too, but I could be mistaken.
He added Javier Aguilar, which didn't really perform all that well for him. Uh, it was, and then 2 years ago, he added, like, I know he added Lee Caporn 2 years ago, and he had a big drop off in average and on base percentage this year. His home runs and RBIs were in line kind of with what done in his career. But yeah, it's just an odd drop off. I think the big thing for them, and Chuck's mentioned it, was just how much their bullpen dropped off. I think their pitching last year was, especially their bullpen was like top three in the league, and dropping down to 12th this year definitely did not help things there. So missing the playoffs by one game, just that definitely it hurts. But Cleveland's been uh, adding, and that's been between Charleston, Cleveland, and New Orleans, they're basically having three teams there battling for two or three wild card spots when you have Florida that far ahead. And I know there was some discussion on Discord about the Dixie catching up or the Dixie being the most competitive it's ever been. I think we need to hold rein in the horses and kind of just take a step back and realize that really, if we want to really look at it, in my view, I mean, I've been here long enough to remember Kentucky being good, and the years where Kentucky and Florida were battling, those two teams were well above what any of the competition level is right now in the Dixie. So it's good that we have teams that are being competitive. I think the playoff teams getting in there, though, are more um, tied to talent of the rest of the IL and not per se the talent of the Dixie being the new rising sun.
Yeah, Florida's 106 wins were pretty impressive. I mean, I know they've won more than that in the past, but
Well, I
you
think
know.
like people, that's good to bring that up because let's see, how many, what did they have
So I'm looking
last
at
year?
their history. In 39, they won 130 games. In 40, 109, 41, 110, 42, 113, 43, 104, and then this year 106. So they improved upon last year's record. But they've been, the last time they did not win 100 games was 2031, and they won 91 games and finished in second place and did not make the playoffs that season.
Well, we'll see what Out of the Park 27 does, but I think it's impressive in the current game environment anytime you're over 100 wins because with the tightening of outcomes that we've talked about and just the difference in this, the vast difference in this version compared to previous ones that we've all gotten accustomed to playing, it's really hard to not only get 100 wins, but to be that far ahead of everyone else. So props to Thad for keeping that going, and we'll see what
Thoughts
happens
on
here.
any thoughts on Knopp and Vito? Like they'll be 35 at the end of this season,
It's so funny
hopefully.
because it's like, yes, I think they're going to continue to decline, but their decline when you start off so high, they're still better than like if Vito goes down to like his batting average has consistently been going down. If it goes down to like 290 next year and he bats has a 375 on base percentage and still has 100 RBIs. Like it's going to go down, but it's like how quick
He
is it? When is there going to be the fall off the cliff moment? I guess.
right
Do
because
you
he
think?
the 43 and 44 were almost identical seasons. I mean, if you look at OPS, 158 OPS plus 158 and 159. I mean, those two seasons, the last two seasons, were a significant drop off from 2042, where he had a 199 OPS plus. But you know,
Think
you can win a lot of games with a cleanup hitter who's got a 159 OPS plus. And then if
right.
you look at Knopp, he's been consistent the last two seasons. I
Yep.
would just be concerned, like at 35, 36, like when does a big drop off happen? And I don't know.
Well, and Thad and I were talking about this week, but I don't know how he hasn't played center field. Like if you look at Knopp's career center field numbers, he's taken a major like the ratings are still there, but the production isn't. And I debated to even say anything to him about it, but it's like, you know,
Yeah, see, his zone rating was 6.3, which is respectable. It's just he had a 23.2 zone rating one season, which
right.
is just crazy. It
Well, and it's
looks like
like what is like this Victor Marrero who's got left field. I don't maybe just holding out hope that the ratings will still hold up there, but like
yeah, age, didn't they say age affects speed and some defensive abilities, I think.
yeah, and a lot of times you're not going to see it until it's after it's long actually
Yeah, I would worry
taking
that
effect.
that behind the curtain the drop happens, but you don't your scout doesn't show it yet.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I would definitely be keeping an eye on those guys next season to see if there is any production drop.
Well, and like we were talking before we started recording, they've got Florida's done a nice job of building depth around those two players where those type of drops are not going to be as detrimental as a drop on another team where there's nothing like those are your key core guys carrying the team and there's no one there to pick up the slack. Florida's got guys like the second baseman Kobayashi, I think, could be one of those guys that
Steps
picks
up.
up some of that slack if it happens. But should be interesting, and
Can we switch over to the
people.
ghosts?
Yeah, let's go over to Dan.
So like Shane Longbottom, I wanted to talk to you about him. I know he was a guy that you and I chatted about in that during that draft when the draft was happening. He was a guy that either during a podcast or you know just you and I talking, we liked him a lot in the draft. Um, he picked him 27th overall in 2043, and that guy just came out of the gate like just tearing it up.
Yeah,
I mean, look, he's got a 180 OPS plus in 339 plate appearances as a 22-year-old. Only
and
one and
basically
a
played
half.
a half season with
Yeah, what like
5.3
he was
WAR.
drafted in 43, so that's a half season, right? So he's only
Yeah,
got like one full season in the minors. Started off at AAA, and uh, I mean, I assume Dan promoted him because he was just hitting the cover off the ball at AAA this season, and he improved upon his numbers once he was promoted to the Ghosts. So you
yeah.
know, hats off. That's a great player. He was definitely on our radar during the draft as one of the better infielders, and his ratings look really solid. Um, I think he's got himself a really. Let's see what he's doing on defense. Wow,
Pretty good. 9.4.
yeah, that's a pretty impressive. He's better at the big leagues than he was at AAA
Yeah.
for just his defensive statistics.
And sometimes with young guys, it takes a while for them
Yeah,
to not just produce on offense, but have their defense production match what their ratings are. And long bottom's already there. So it's, and I've got my head scout OSA has him even better on defense.
But
So
he was on my radar from this past draft. It's this Jeffrey Wilson.
yeah,
Uh, I like this guy. Um, he's got really interesting gap, power, and I ratings. The big concern is the avoid Ks. Um, you know, I think you could be tempted to use him as a platoon hitter. You know, uh, based on his splits, but I think this is a guy in a full season could easily hit you 30 to 40 home runs, 30 to 40 doubles, 70 to 80 walks, and he's going to strike out 200 times if you give him 600 plate appearances. You're going to get 200 and some strikeouts, but I still think he's going to be a very productive player
I mean, just looking at that
eventually.
small sample size, like you multiply that out for a season,
Yeah, it's
he's
not bad.
hitting, over 30 home runs.
Yeah, the batting
That,
average is atrocious, but
yeah,
he's a slugger. You know, he's the guy who's going to strike out or hit it over the fence
yeah.
or
And
off the fence.
once that avoid K jumps up to a two and the BABIP jumps up to a seven with his age, I fully expect it will. I mean, that will cut down on a lot because I know, like with one of my power hitters, Julio Luna, being stuck on that four contact really pulled down his ability to hit for a higher average. So once it jumped up to a five this season, it was a huge jump. So I fully with Wilson, yeah, the avoid K is high, but I really don't care if you strike out 200 times if you're hitting 40 or more home runs. And I think, yeah, I'd be playing. It'll be interesting to see what Dan does with him next year and how the team looks. But I mean, send him to Dev Lab this year and hope that, generate contact or, possibly winter ball. I mean, you could do that too of just finishing off of Void K and BABIP. And wow, I mean, it's it's interesting to see with just, and we've talked about the quality that's in the draft or that's been in the draft the past couple of years, but just for those two players for the Ghosts to add and then quickly be on the team really turns around kind of the situation they were in. Because for a while there, Dan was kind of caught in that my guys are getting older. I've got some really nice young pieces, but I'm kind of in that I'm competing, but I'm not where how I want to be competing type of thing. And he was able to move pieces around, get more draft picks, add these types of guys to his team. And he's totally revamped a lot of it to get a lot younger to kind of keep that window open. So it'll be interesting to see how far the Ghosts go here. I know, last year we talked about just how bad of luck their pitching staff had compared to how good their pitching staff looked. And I think to start this season, they dealt with a lot of injuries to their pitching staff, but it looks like most of those guys are back. You got Frank Stewart was a acquisition of off season, another young player, looks really good. Valdez is pitching amazing for a fourth starter. Winning 15 games, 206 innings, 2.97 ERA. Leslie Carter is just for a fifth starter to get that kind of production out of that guy. And I realized that he wasn't the fifth starter the whole year, but he's been kind of, using that spot, getting, trying to find guys that work there. So, and I didn't even mention Young Pil Penn or Dan Wilson at the top. So it's, it's not as clear cut on the SL side, I think, as compared to maybe last year where it looked like the Avas were the class of the league before the playoffs even started. But
Yeah, anything can happen in the playoffs, and there have been some surprises, from seasons past, and the game does do that every once in a while. But if you were making me bet, I would bet on the Avas and Florida, right? I mean, like why that they got
I
to be the
mean,
odds-on favorite to make the
yeah,
championship series.
it wasn't like the Avas lost anything from the team that made them, took them to the finals and won last year. Their offense is still really good. They've got great pitching. Uh, you know, Going to the draft, they were able to 2 years ago when they're drafting like what was it, 12th or 13th? Yeah, 13th, picking up that Kenzo Tamari pretty much changed. I think it changed their complete trajectory of that season. They went from being one of the contenders to being the contender on that side.
Yeah,
So
to get one of the best bullpen arms, in the league from the draft
yeah,
is a pretty big boost to an already really strong team.
I mean, look at this. Like, and this is so he's drafted in 2043. He was able to make 41 appearances in less than a half of a season and come in and lock down 29 saves with a .78 ERA. Now, second season, teams adjusting to he's adjusting to the league. Yeah, you're not going to have a 500 ERA plus every year, but 119 is still pretty darn good out of a relief pitcher. And I'd say, when you're looking at some of this stuff, his BABIP was ridiculously low last year, kind of adjusted more so to around league average, a little higher. So there's a little bad luck in there, probably for him as a reliever, but not crazy bad luck. But the I think we've talked about it before. But the biggest difference I see is just the amount of home runs he gave up this season versus last year, and that's really the difference. When you look at a lot of this stuff, is just the jump from .2 to .9 home runs per nine, and then walked walked more guys. So one of those things you're gonna have to adjust to it, but you take Tamari out of it. Like Tamari's great, but then you got Leon Zamora right in front of him, another former closer for Florida for a long time. Uh, I think, yeah, Florida. Trying to remember if he was the short Leon Florida or if he was one of the London to Florida guys, but he's definitely the Florida guy. And you just start going down the line. There's a lot of good pitchers. Um, that what will be interesting is bridging the gap to get to Zamora and Tamari for the Avas. They've got great pitchers. Arthur and Barraclaw definitely have the ability to go deeper into games. So when they start, it's probably less of a worry. But as you go down through their rotation, it's going to be interesting to see how they bridge that gap. And the team that we haven't talked about yet in that division is Toyoma. And on paper, every year, Toyoma looks like they're one of the best or the best balanced teams, I think, in the league. So Dylan's always the past couple versions of this game, especially this version, it seems like slow starts and then getting hot at the end. And I would rather be hot at the end than hot early. So you never know if they could ride that hot streak that they're on heading into the playoffs. And
I've seen it happen. Yeah, so some of the teams that have finished strong, so like New Jersey went 7-3 in their last 10, Florida 7-3. Wow, London went 1-9 in their last 10. Um, Crystal Lake, not great. Aurora. So the hottest teams right now, the Avas, Aurora went 8-2, so they are the hottest team over the last 10 games. So that's an interesting thing to note. I'd rather be have a good last 10 games than a bad last 10 games. You know what I mean? I think it can matter in the playoffs.
I think it does, and it really matters. I think, especially if you're a team getting a bye in that first round, because if you're sitting there and you're riding a losing streak in, there's less time to rebound and recover and
So
get like you're not recovering by not playing games. You recover by playing. So
speaking of New Jersey, so D'Antonio, we talk about him, I think, every podcast. Uh, so he not great, right? He's kind of getting his legs underneath him. 3.79 ERA in 20 games started, 7-5 record. But he was in September. He had a 2.18 ERA and a 5-1 record in the month of September. Now on the negatives, so you got to be feeling good to have a pitcher like D'Antonio get hot in the month of September heading into the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
On the negative side, if you look at the game log, he got lit up in his last game of the season, which was September or October 1st. He went 4.2 innings, allowed 8 hits, 6 earned runs, uh, pitched 101 pitches. So that's the negative. Is his last game was not exactly encouraging. So, and he's 37% rested right now, so he's not going to be able to go in the first game
That's kind of interesting. He might not be able to go. I mean,
at all.
in the second game, he won't be 100%.
No, but is Brooks 100%? Because I know Brooks has been lights out.
That
No,
might
Brooks is exhausted. Was he
that might
fighting
be
again?
actually a very bad error that Michael made of
Yeah, he's got
not lining
a
up your staff.
yeah, he had a big lead on. Well, I'm sorry. He was
He
five
had
games out of the.
six. He has six over Cleveland, so it wasn't like he was gonna.
Yeah, that I, I've
That's a
always
big
tried.
mistake.
Yeah, I've had my best players in when I didn't know if I was going to win or not. But if the last week you got a pretty decent lead, I line up my rotation. I make sure to rest my starters.
Yeah, because I mean, we're today, Tuesday, October 4th, is game one of the playoffs. So you you're not
Who's
going to
who's
have Brooks and you're not going to have D'Antonio pitch at all, possibly. I mean,
yeah
they might be
is
pitching game four.
yeah oof. that
That's
that might hurt. That might hurt.
like I get like, you know, your team played better than you thought they were going to play. So like you're playing on house money essentially going into these playoffs, but once you get to the playoffs, you got as good a shot as anybody else, and to not line that up is that's just wow. I didn't even it's just kind of really shocking to me because I did not see that until you just brought it up. Because there's a big drop off in that rotation after Brooks and D'Antonio. And Charleston only needs to take 3 games. So, I mean, realistically, you probably get Brooks and D'Antonio for 3 and 4. But if you had them going 1 and 2, you could potentially have D'Antonio pitch a game 5 if you needed it. And that's where the problem comes. Like, you're basically giving a couple starts to pitchers that you probably didn't want to have
Yeah.
start playoff games. But
So
I don't know. A lot of weird
this,
stuff happens, so we'll see what happens.
looking at some of the statistics, league leaders. I noticed a home run leader was Wendell Guinea from Crystal Lake, 44 home runs, followed by a guy you might know, Julio Luna, got 35. Question for you: Do you think we'll see a 50 home run season again?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that we will. Um, I think with some of the adjustments that the board is talking about with stolen bases and how runs are generated in the game, that could potentially shift a few home runs to people because you're going to have to generate runs somehow. Uh, I'm, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are coming into the league now that have 9 or 10 power. And for the longest time, there's been very few 9, I don't think any 10s, but type power guys. So if anyone's going to do it, it's going to be someone like that.
I've seen some
But
pretty big swings from season to season in home run production that I thought was a little odd. So like Toyama's Cabrera, your Luna, even New Orleans Belafonte. I mean, they can swing 10, 12 home runs from season to season, up or down. So like Wendell Guinea did 27 last year and 44 this year in similar number of at bats.
yeah,
But if you look at some of the top home run hitters, you can see that going from 20s to upper 30s, or upper 20s to 40 from season to season, or go down. Like next year, I mean, it's entirely possible that someone like Guinea could have a 30 home run season following up his 44. Um, I would like to see a little more consistency. I could see it when a young player, because we've got some of these guys. I've been looking at some of these, you know, really solid hitters, and they're pretty young. So I could understand going from 27 to 44 if you're going from like your age 24 season to 25. As you get older, you get better. But again, I've seen some pretty wild swings that I don't see an explanation for.
well, and it's hard. It's like, is it something with how our league is set up, or is it more so the version? Tend to lean on this one more of the version, and I think what's happening is we're seeing home runs being distributed downward from the top tier hitters and kind of going more to the 5 and 6 power guys that traditionally wouldn't have had as many because you can go, I mean, you can go down a rabbit hole of looking at 5 and 6 power guys that are putting up mid 20s home run totals. And I mean, even a guy like on my team, Kieran Lumby, my scout has him as a 6.65 guy, and he hit 32 home runs. Like there are plenty of guys that are 7 or 8 power with similar makeup as him that aren't sniffing 32 home runs. So it's interesting. It's hard to project. It makes it definitely more challenging to try to when you're formulating a team, you're just kind of going with your best guess on what this happen, how it's going to all shake out. But it was interesting though, just to kind of see, like you were saying, the jump for Guinea, like this season prior to 2043, 2042, he had 36. So yeah, I mean, you go from 36 down to 27 up to 44, like that's a pretty
Yeah,
big
so
range.
so his age 24 season, he's got, I mean, age 24 looked like he might have been promoted shortly after. He's got in 2039 at the age 23, he had 10 games. So you got to throw that one out the window. But he's looking at 151 games, 146, 148, 121, 145. So he pretty consistent playing time from age 24 through this season at age 28. And he goes 28 home runs, 22 home runs, 36 home runs, 27 home runs, 44 home runs. So a bit of an up and down with consistent number of plate appearances. I don't understand it. It would make more sense to me to have a smaller margin from season to season.
Well, and it's going to be interesting to see what Crystal Lake does with him because he's going to want the money for the 8.4 WAR that he just put up. But
Is he a free agent next season?
I don't think it's next season. I think it's, let me see.
You got some time on him?
I think he's got another ARB on him, but
Yeah,
it's
he's
just
got
that
he's got
that
five
difficult.
years. Yeah, he's got 5 years and 63 days of major league service time. So he'll get him for one more year, and then he's going to have to. His arbitration estimate is $17,894,509.
Yeah.
So an $18 million arbitration estimate. Uh, that's pretty high, but um, it's obviously because he's been one of the best hitters in the league for a very long time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, looks like he's going to be having some money come off the books after that Guinea contract. So you would think he'd be able, if he wants Guinea to be part of the team longer, it looks like he'll be able to do it. It just kind of gets into the management part of the game where trying to figure out how the pieces fit and if the dollar amounts make sense. So
So
let's go back
you
to
want to?
some of the stat leaders quick.
I'd like to talk about stolen bases.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
Lou from West Virginia was the leader with 93 stolen bases. He had 67 last year, 60 the year before. So pretty significant jump. But you and I definitely expected that. Uh, and it looks like Dylan was commenting. I saw in Discord that they're going to try and get closer to what the historical averages were. So we should see a reduction, not a huge reduction, right? So, okay, the next one was that Sandor Vis, who is a really good player. He had 91 stolen bases. I don't think you can count. Oh yeah, he played for two
Last
different
year was
teams.
just a crazy
He had
down.
30, so 42 between two teams last year. So doubled, right? Doubled his stolen
Yeah, I mean,
base.
it's nuts. Like, because even if you go, okay, we'll get rid of 2043 and go to the previous version, 2042 season, he had 58 steals and was thrown out 23 times. So it wasn't really like a good,
Yeah. First off, I did the numbers. We had a 73% league wide success rate for stolen bases this year, and it was 57% last season. I think the historical average. Do you remember what that was? It's more like
it
60
was like
something.
between 67, 68%, depending on how
Yeah, and
you
I'd like to
look
note
at
that
it.
I think Aurora led the league in success rate. They had almost an 81% success rate as a team, which is just incredible. But they've always been a running team. But I was
Yeah.
very impressed with the success rate that they had, beating the league average, by a significant margin. Um, but if they tweak it down to where the league-wide success rate is in the 60s, that'll be fine. It's just I think right now I think 73% is about what Major League Baseball is, and I've been told in I think it was Slack at the time, PEBA's not an MLB. Oh, okay, fine, but it sure looks like we were this year.
Before we dive more into the stats, I did want to circle back quick to the one playoff team that we overlooked or didn't speak on, but that was Hartford. And I know Tice has made a lot of moves since he's joined the league. Ones that some that like we all do that you regret, and some that make you look really good. And this past off season, a lot of the moves he made make him look really good, really good. So it's nice to see someone that's new to the game that's growing and isn't afraid to like after you kind of might make a move that is bad, he wasn't afraid to go out there and make another move and another one to get better. So
Yeah,
I'm impressed.
talking about his team, I would say like he's got three starting pitchers. And when you're going into the playoffs with Goder, that Velez and Ronaldo Hernandez, that that's you got to feel pretty comfortable with those three. Let's see, is Goder rested? But he gets a bye, doesn't he?
He gets a bye, so he should be
So that
good to
doesn't
go.
matter. Yeah, so he's gonna go in with his best pitchers all rested up, and then that Li Ping Chen, that left fielder, he is one heck of a player, right?
Yeah.
That's that's a guy that I would love to have.
Oh, and he
So
just does everything. Like
yeah,
he's a great corner outfielder, especially left fielder, and he smacks the crap out of the ball. So
I see that he acquired him from New Jersey last season. Interesting.
which is the weird, really, if you go back, and I'll pull it up here, it's a really weird history because he was originally traded by Hartford to New Jersey in the deal that sent Ken Stewart, Griff Aspinwall over to I think that was when he acquired Griff Aspinwall and Ken Stewart. And then yeah, he traded back for him last season. He gave up gave up a lot there. He got a fourth round draft pick back, but he gave up a starting pitcher prospect, right field prospect, his first and his third round draft pick. So you look at it, and I'm like you. I think I'd be doing that trade 10 out of 10 to get this type of player because there's just not that many of them out there. So it's not to say that Michael didn't get. I think if we go back and look, that first round pick was probably the one that he used to get the relief pitcher blank horn. So definitely, I mean, he was able to use that pick to get something that helped him down the stretch and helped him moving forward in the future with a solid reliever there. So maybe both teams got what they were looking out of it, but I
Let's not
think it's hard
forget
to.
that was 2043 that he traded that player. And that hitter is got to be worth a few games, a few, wins above replacement, shall we say. And who knows if New Jersey would have received the first overall pick if he was playing
That's true.
that player. What's his name? Ping. If he
Ping
was,
Li Peng Chen,
yeah, if he was playing him for a whole
half a
season,
season or a full season, yeah.
yeah, who knows?
All I know is that both teams were probably happy with the end result of D'Antonio going to New Jersey with making sure that they didn't overplay that year, and then Hartford has got to love the production that they've gotten out of him so far in his young career. So not sure. It looks like he had enough at bats last year where he qualified as a rookie last year, so this year won't be eligible for the Wunderkind award, but I don't think Tice cares as long as he's in the playoffs and competing. So he'd rather have him in competition for the other hitting awards, I think, and defensive awards.
Well, another hitter to talk about is this Hisashi Taguchi from the Cleveland Cryptids, second baseman, 24-year-old. Uh, he led the league in OPS 1.010, followed by Guinea at 0.995. So this guy at for a 24-year-old, and we seem to have a lot of really good hitters who are not very old.
Yep.
But this guy just crushed it. He's been in the league for a few seasons now. So he was promoted at the age of 21 back when it was San Antonio, but he's played his whole career so far, all 3 seasons with the same team, despite the team changing his name. But he had a little bit of a down year last year, but in his rookie season, he had a 923 OPS, dropped down to 744 last year, and then back up to 1.010, which is just incredible. I can't remember the last time. It's been probably decades since I had a hitter with over a 900 OPS. So an 8.8 WAR, but outstanding, leading the league.
Well, and it's crazy is too is he's leading the league in WAR, but missed like 5 weeks earlier in the year with an oblique strain. So
Yeah. So what's he
he
going to
could
do
have.
next?
What could have that been? Yeah,
Yeah. What next season will be interesting. There'll be a good player to watch for next season because
for sure.
some of the WAR leaders for batting are that Takuchi and then Guinea at 8.4 right behind him. Uh, Timmy Leuenberg from the Avas. He was a recent draftee too, wasn't he?
Think
He was
so.
drafted. Let's see, because his name sounds familiar, like a player I was looking at during the draft.
He's actually kind of. I think
Older.
he was drafted as a high schooler, so he's a little bit older,
Yeah, he's
or
only
he's been in the league
23.
longer. But
He's
yep,
23 and he's been hitting the ball pretty well. consistent, a little more consistent. 106 OPS plus, 134 OPS plus, and then this season 139. But again, when you look at the leaderboards, there's some good young hitters there that look like they are poised to produce for quite some time. On the pitching side, no 20 game winners, 19 missed it by one. So Brewster, oh no, I'm sorry, Aaron Goder with 19. This Rusty Hughes, um,
which
Charleston.
wild.
Yeah, look, maybe what is it? Flip to OSA. No, my head scout says very high accuracy says that this guy is basically fives across the board.
Yeah.
So I, I don't get it. Um,
I don't know, but it's like the past two seasons are way lower in ERA than the prior two. And I mean it's definitely the thing I wish would with this version on is like when these players produce like that, boost their ratings up so that the production sustained, or is it just kind of a like a 1 year blip? And I get you have guys that have 1 year blips in their career that are just like, wow, where'd that come from? And then they go back to
yeah, if you
being
look at on my side of the game, um, uh, where is his for wins? Ernest Smith,
oh
he had
yeah,
18 wins, 309 ERA, very respectable. But his ratings, okay, I look at his ratings and go, okay, yeah, this guy should be at the top, right?
yeah, he's one of
But
the best pitchers in the league.
compare him to what was the guy we were looking at?
Ernest Smith, like
Uh,
or Rusty Hughes.
Rusty Hughes. Like how is he produced? Did he do something good last year?
He
Yeah,
did have a good year last year, but he had a but he didn't like he was kind of used as
yeah, both
a
bullpen and
swingman, like
starter. Only 12
yeah,
starts in 2041. At the age of 24, he had 31 starts, and that was other than this season. That's the only time he had more than 21 starts in a season. And
and
that
really his
season
production that year looks like what you would expect out of
looks
that
like
rate.
fives across the board. Yeah,
Yeah,
430, 4.30 ERA. You know, I'm not sure I understand. Is well the wins because 3.27 is really good, but it's not. I mean, it's not like he's a 2 ERA. So the
no,
wins are coming from offensive production, right?
yeah,
So let's go to ERA.
and he's going. I mean, at least in his defense, he's going deep enough into games to qualify. So at least he's going 5 or 6 innings with the lead. So
The best ERA goes back to Charleston.
yeah,
Mas,
it's. I mean, we're going to get into
Masamichi
kind of.
Goto, again, fives across the board, according to my scout, and he's got a 2.32 ERA, 11-8 record in 32 games started.
And I know, it's if you don't know this by now, you're probably really confused with the OTP, which is understandable, but movement is important. But there's a lot of other pitchers that have the same or better movement than the guys we're bringing up here that aren't getting the production. So that's where we're kind of
Yeah, well,
confused.
Henry Freitas, much better looking ratings wise from Toyama. Uh, he, he's not that surprising to lead the SL.
Right.
He had a 2.44 ERA, and then Fargo's David Garcia looks like an outstanding. He's got ace like ratings. 28-year-old left-handed pitcher uh, with Fargo, 13-4, 2.55 ERA in 32 starts. So it's not all wonky. It's just that you occasionally you see a player and the performance according to their ratings is a big head scratcher to me.
Yeah. Oh, and it's one of those where it's like I'm perfectly fine with somebody being like I didn't think my guy was going to do that. I got lucky. They just had a great year. Like,
Yeah, look at Gerardo Diaz with Palm Springs, 24-year-old. Again, my scout says it's very. Let's check OSA. So checking OSA looks much better in OSA. So that's interesting. This may be a scouting thing.
yeah,
Um, his ratings in OSA look like he's going to have a 2.60 ERA and a 13-8 win loss record. But if you switch over to my scout, he's got essentially fives across the board.
yeah. Well, and like for the longest time, OSA has been kind of shit on for for people saying that you shouldn't use it for anything. But that is one thing I've noticed with this version is that sometimes your scout ratings of a player are actually further off than what OSA's ratings are to what they actually are. So that's
I've
kind
been
of a
using
change on this.
Yeah, I've been using OSA more than I have in the past. Where if my scout and OSA are closer in line with the player, especially during the draft, then I feel a little more comfortable than if there's a wide variation between the two.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. It's not that OSA is magically this version way more accurate. It's just that on how you use it versus
Another
maybe
tool.
how
It's
you.
another tool in the toolbox.
Yep. Well, let's see. We've got we've hit on we haven't hit
We
on
talk
Henry
want to talk about
Frazier's is
saves. You want to talk
leading
about
up.
saves?
Yeah,
So we
we can
got
do saves
well,
and
let's
fifth.
do strikeouts. Leader was Brewster. So
Yep,
for
Brewster,
any
then
any of
Brewster.
the any of the haters who were saying Brewster's, getting whacked, he had an outstanding season. 15-6, 2.70 ERA, and led both leagues in strikeouts with 254 strikeouts, which is
What's
quite
funny is
impressive.
like it's going to be interesting to see how people vote for
WAR.
the.
I've noticed people go with WAR. Now, I think I've read that pitching WAR is a little wonky
Yeah.
in the game. So I kind of like to
What?
do. I like ER. I like a combination of for was it Golden Arm, right?
Yeah, a gold
I,
arm.
I like ERA. I want to make sure that they got a lot of innings. Like I'm not going to vote some guy with 90 innings with a great ERA. I want to see some innings pitched for a starter, and I want their win loss record to be respectable, but it's not as important to me as ERA. And then I like looking at strikeouts per nine, walks per nine, and home runs per nine. I think that's a good gauge to use.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out because I like looking at FIP. I like looking at ERA plus.
Yeah, they don't
Like,
they don't put
and depending
FIP
on
on
which
the.
one you look at, Goder or Brewster is better than the other one in different ones. So it could be a very tight vote, I think, between those two.
Yeah, so wins on the IL. It's Goder, Hughes, and Hayakawa from Florida. ERA, it's Godo, Bill Brooks from New Jersey, and Henry Dolman from Cleveland. And then strikeouts, it's Brewster, Goder, Hayakawa. So on the SL, ERA is Freitas, Garcia, Diaz. Wins Smith, Freitas, Lee Barklaw from the Avas. Strikeouts
Yeah.
Smith, Yamamoto, and Freitas. So I don't know, like, would you vote for Freitas because he's he's in the mix for all of these different categories?
He's definitely right up there. I think where it's hard because you'll have people that will look at WAR and they'll say, "Oh, Ernest Smith's way higher than everybody else." But then when you start diving into some of the other numbers, it's like, well, David Garcia has a better fit. Smith's
Yeah,
second.
I would
Freitas
lean.
has a better ERA plus. Like Garcia's second there. Like that one's tight too. Like there's three guys that are probably like interchangeable depending on what you're looking at.
Yeah, it's got to be on the IL. It's got to be Goder or Brewster, right?
Yeah, I think
And I
so.
think
It's those two. And
Goder might win because of the .1 pitching war that's
yeah,
different between them. But I mean, you can make a strong case for either Brewster or Goder in the IL, and then in the SL, you can make a case for Smith and Freitas.
and I think Garcia's there too, but like Garcia's second in ERA plus. He's second or more. He's leading the league in FIP, and FIP is one I tend to like a little bit more because it's totally on the pitcher, and you're not benefiting on having a good defense around you type of scenario. It's not that I value that because I think there's too many times where guys that give up soft contact kind of get penalized for a lot of these awards because they don't show well in some of the areas, but when it comes down to actual production, that's why I like ERA plus too. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's those three. It's Garcia, it's Smith, and Freitas, and then I don't know right now how I'm gonna divide the put. I mean, Freitas, the .92 whip, like that's
Yeah,
ridiculous. Like,
that's crazy.
yeah.
That's pretty outstanding.
The other his strikeout to walk ratio is really high, 4.9. Um, so stuff like that, it's just like you look at it, but then you look at Ernest Smith striking out 9.7 people per nine innings and batters per nine. Garcia's right behind him at 9.6. So yeah, it's just like what do you value as the GM, and how do you pick between the three? Because I think they're all very close.
Great. These are great pitchers. I mean, all these guys are playoff teams. So,
Yeah.
uh, got to feel pretty good going into a series with these types of pitchers, assuming you didn't pull a New Jersey and not line them up to pitch in the beginning in the opening series, the opening game. Saves are kind of interesting because the save leaders don't have the best ERAs, so that that's an interesting thing to note. The leader is Hideo Hideo Mura from Toyama with 46 saves, 6-6 record, 3.01 ERA. Over on
Yeah.
the IL, it's Pedro Sanchez from Hartford, 40 saves, a 10-9 record, and a 3.87 ERA.
And it's like you start diving into some of this stuff. The leader in WAR for relief pitcher is Martin McHutcheon out of New Jersey, and the guy's got good numbers like across the board. But you start looking at it, it's like how does it just shows kind of how wonky WAR is for
But
pitching
innings
because
pitch, and some of these guys can get a lot of the times the relief pitchers with high wars are getting starts, so that it kind of
yeah.
inflates the war number.
But like with this guy, he didn't start, I don't think. He's been mostly the closer for New Jersey, but you look at his numbers compared to like a Soseki Yokoyama from San Juan, and they've got about the same amount of innings. Um, I'd say it looks like McCutcheon has more strikeouts, a little less walks, but he's giving up more runs. So it's just like, where are they giving value to relief pitching wins? Like they're getting a boost there. It just seems like a pretty big gap between almost a full WAR difference between a guy that had a 1.65 ERA versus the guy that had a full ERA higher, but one more win of WAR. And it's just odd because I expected when I first saw this that McCutcheon was used as a starter or something, but he's not. He's a relief pitcher.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you got to give some weight to that.
Because yeah, I mean, I know like Bob Moore for the Scottish, I used him as a stopper, so that's why his WAR is higher than what you would see out of a normal relief pitcher because he had 128 innings pitched. So, but it'll be interesting to see how people value this because you have like someone like Ward Hernandez for New Orleans with a 2.1 FIP. Like that's something that stands out to me. That's drastically lower than the next, the top five. There's a pretty big gap there with that. And then with ERA plus, Yokoyama stands out there as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting. There just wasn't. I think for San Juan, there just wasn't that many save opportunities for Yokoyama compared to previous years. So, but when he did pitch, he pitched well. So I don't know. It's another one of how you look at it, how you value it. I know, um, people like looking at holds and shutdowns. Your pitcher Salami led the league in shutdowns. So that's
Yeah,
a
he only had 21 saves because we couldn't buy a win this season, but 2.37 ERA, 1.71 ERA plus. I'll be honest with you, I'll be voting. I would probably be voting for my guy. I mean, a little bit of a homer pick, but man, he had a lights out season.
yeah. Oh, then the other one that I'll look at occasionally just to kind of compare is just like the difference between the regular war um, calculation and then what their R war, the runs against nine war is, and like someone like Bob Moore is a lot higher rated in runs against nine war than he is. I mean, he's still a top five in war guy, but going from 2.4 to 4.1 is a pretty big jump on those. Sometimes those numbers will be close, and other times they'll be a wide gap. So then you kind of dig into the why on that, and it'll be interesting. I mean, you could go, there's a lot of different ways you could go with it, and I tend on these season awards to vote on actual production and not player rating, and then what they could have done or what they should have done, or because I think there's times where people get confused on the, oh, well, this guy was hurt, so if he would have played, then his production would have been this. And my argument to that always is, well, he didn't play. So
Right.
I don't care that if you would have played another 30 games, you would have led the league in WAR, or you didn't.
And there's been a
So
lot of discussion about that with Hall of Fame voting, and
yeah,
I tend to put a lot of weight on longevity. Like I want a Hall of Famer to have a long career, and there's been some interesting debate about, short-term dominance. And I weight that a lot less than I do long-term production.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see what people's thoughts are on that. And I mean, when it comes time for Hall of Fame voting coming up, we'll definitely dive into that more with the new class, and it'll be a good off-season podcast to do. But
And I'm sure there'll be plenty of time since both of us are not in the playoffs, and we'll be waiting quite some time before we have our teams performing on the field again.
well, I think that's a good segue into a topic we didn't have on our list to talk about, but you know, we're guilty of it. We often talk about the teams that are performing and the teams that are doing well and the teams that are because that's the ultimate goal. You want to win. You want to win. You want to win the Rodriguez Cup. You want to get there. But for two-thirds or more of the league, we've got about a month and a half, 2 months of nothing for us to really do but watch, maybe you know, come up with game plans on what you want to do for the future, but there's still a lot of unknowns until you see the actual free agent list or things of that nature.
Yeah. What do? You think about Dev Lab. You take a look at different players that you might want to send. You think about winter ball. You know, spending contribution points. Um,
I
but
think a lot that should be what a lot of people are doing right now because what's I guess confusing to me, and not just this league, but any league that I've ever been in, is that there's this perception that there's not enough time for any decision.
yeah,
Right
Rule
now,
Five. This is a good time to think about Rule Five. You can look at your
protect,
roster right now and
yeah.
say, okay, who's going to be exposed, and who do I need to protect?
And what's funny is you don't have to make the move right now, but you could start a list, whether it be writing on a piece of paper or Excel of, hey, these are the guys I want to protect, these are the ones I don't. And then as soon as that first opens up, after the once we switch to the new game and you're in the off season, make your protections so that you don't get into a situation where you're mad because the export didn't take, and then other people are mad because there's a guy showing is available, but we don't know if he's available. But the bottom line is if the export doesn't take, sorry, like the guy is available. So every year we have this happen where it happens with one or two teams where people get mad because some guy didn't get protected. But the bottom line is I have empathy for you, but at the same token, you have like 5 or 6 sims prior to that to protect these guys. So protect them then. And then if your sim doesn't take or your export doesn't take, you got a couple more that you can make
Yeah.
sure.
I mean,
Or
there's
you
always
could,
that you've got roster spots that on your 40 man that are going to open up because you might have free agents that have yet to file and maybe you non-tender a player or two to open up those roster spots. So you might not be able to protect them yet if you're full, but you can take a look and you can evaluate who might need protecting.
yeah. Oh, and then I mean, I think you had a good point of start planning on what you're going to do for Dev Lab. Start planning on what players you might want to send to Winter Ball
Yeah, that's
or
what I've
other
been doing.
strategies.
I've been thinking about those two things. I've been thinking about players that I want to make coaches to fill in spots in my minors. Um, I've looked at the upcoming free agent class, but you're right. Those guys can still get signed, and it does look a little thin. I think we've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to make some moves. I would be remiss. The Vales will be upset with me if I don't mention that this is the perfect time to start thinking about trades. but uh, you know, there's a lot of things you can do to improve your team. I certainly want to be a winning team next season. My problem is I kind of like the team I have, even though it underperformed. Um, and I am so reluctant to trade first round draft picks that you know improving my team via trade does not seem highly likely. But there are other ways and I don't expect that I'm going to make. We've talked about this before. I don't recommend that you make any drastic changes to your team, and I don't think I'm going to be making any drastic changes to my team. But I'm still hoping for a significant improvement in the win loss column next season.
I think that's all you can do because I think it's just the variation of outcomes is just so crazy. And I know some will be don't agree, but bottom line is we can agree to disagree, but the fact is in this version, There's a lot more wonkiness
Well,
than
you
what
bring
we're
up
accustomed to.
you know, it is a very good point that we are making a version change this off season, and lots of crazy things can happen when you change game engines. I don't know that there's going to be a drastic change from 26 to 27, but there have been drastic changes in the past. I would like to see a much more mild change from 26 to 27. I prefer a little more consistency, but there could be some adjustments to the win loss column for teams that are due to no fault of their own. It's just the game sees things differently in the next version.
Yeah, and we'll see how that all shakes out pretty quickly. Well,
Yeah.
in the next month and a half or two
Well, I don't
months.
know about not that quickly.
No, we'll get an idea of. I mean, I guess another thing you could do is buy out of the park 27 now and start looking at what your team looks like in that version and try to.
Yeah, I know you bought it. I have not gotten it yet. So I've been thinking about it because that is definitely a fun way to spend some time is to import, right? And then look at how the new version, improves a prospect or a player, or maybe crushes a prospect or a player. I mean, these things have been known to happen.
Well, and the caveat with that is like just because the rating changes, the output or how that player plays in the new version might be the same exact output, but the rating looks different. But I don't know. I think with this new one, you're gonna have the normal growing pains of a Switch, but everything I'm reading so far is, and just testing it out on my own, it appears that we'll be getting back to a more distribution that's similar to what we've expected or how the game is played traditionally versus whatever the heck they thought they were doing in 26. It's just weird to me. Like I've never played a game. OOTP is the only game I've ever played where they're continually making patch adjustments so late and after a game is released. Like normally the only time like games make patch adjustments is there's some major issue. I just feel like the past couple versions of this game, they've released games that are actually broken and they've had to do so many patches to like get them to a point of being workable or playable.
I assume they've patched it up more than once so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good news is because it's going to take some time to get through the playoffs in PEBA. I think on the positive side is by the time we are ready for the switch over, they should be pretty done with the patches, wouldn't you think?
They should be. It just makes me wonder like how much I don't think they do a very good job of testing when it comes to this stuff because there are blatantly obvious things that like they just mess up on. Like, and I don't know if it's they're having people do the testing that aren't like baseball, like knowledgeable about baseball. Like, just I mean, the last version they had the wrong images in ballparks. Like, so is that a coding thing where the code name says Nationals, so the person just is like, "Yep, the code's good," and they don't actually go and check it and see that it says Potomac Nationals instead of Washington National. Like just little things like that, and I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like just not high priority because it's not actually changing the outcome or how the game plays. It's just a visual type thing, but I don't know. They make a big deal every year about the upgraded visuals, and they're not
Yeah, I
really.
don't really. So I
It's not
saw. I
really
think
upgraded.
Dylan posted something about the the user interface he disliked. Do you
Yeah.
do you have an opinion on it? It's drastically different?
I don't like how they changed some of the things that show. Like when you're looking at a player, they have a lot of the advanced metrics and like to me that should be a separate screen.
That
I
you
think that
go
was where he was,
that you seek out if you want to see them.
yeah. Like it still should just be ratings. And then if I want to go see how those ratings apply to the results that are being with the advanced metrics, then yeah, I think that's interesting. But yeah, it's I don't know. I think they change things just to change them so that they can say that it's new and it's not necessarily needed or improved, but we'll see. I mean, I know a lot of people are very into the advanced stats for baseball, so that's definitely why they're going that route. But well, we got less than a minute left, Scott, so I think it's a good place to stop.
All right.
All right. Thanks for
Good episode.
being
Talk to you later.
available. Yeah. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
From the lakes of Duluth to Havana's warm breeze, Reno's desert lights glow where the crowd's ever free. Shinsaki's wars with the bats held high. Yuma sandlot dreams touch the wide open sky. Palm Springs breathes the heat where the sun always shines. 32 teams united, crossing every line. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. Swing for the stars in the barricade. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 better than air, better than air. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. Scottish pipers cheer as the bases are run. New Orleans rhythm swings till the battle is won. Tempe's rolling the dice with the fastball surprise. Toyota's precision lights up in our eyes. Now machines are strong where the dust meets the dream. Florida's golden fields where the champions gleam. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. From the dirt to the diamond, we're chasing the call. The roar of the fans, yeah, we're giving our all. Swing for the stars in the barricade. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 better than air, better than air. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. 32 dreams, one world, one fight. From dusk till dawn, we're burning so bright. Every pitch, every hit, every play in the zone. The Planetary Baseball Alliance, we're never alone. From the fields to the stands, hear the planet unite. PEBA's the spark and we're taking flight. Swing for the stars in the barricade. Global fire, every city's aflame. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the fight. Planetary extreme, we're igniting the night. Oh, 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 better than air, better than air. Oh, 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 we're changing the game. So raise up your gloves, let the banners fly high. From San Juan to Kalamazoo, we're reaching the sky. Planetary Extreme Baseball Alliance, where the legends are born. Swing for the stars, let the world hear our roar.